Welcome back to Celtics Late Night. My name is Ben Ballas. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I'm with my main man, Jake Eisenberg, who's just witnessed the Celtics' first loss of the season. Jake, how you doing, man?
I'm okay. Man, I forgot what losing feels like.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling that we were going to lose today. Obviously, there was no Derek. Didn't think there would be Porzingis. So that was kind of where I thought we were going to lose. But then KP fought through a sty. But man, PTSD vibes for sure in this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start there. PTSD, I assume that you're referring to the Celtics' stagnant offense down the stretch there. I mean, you start. I got a few notes, but I mean, I guess the most concerning thing, it was maybe the first point all year where we sort of had something to look back on in terms of last year and think, oh shit, like some of these issues might still be at the forefront here.
It was the exact same shit as it always is, or always was, I guess I should say. The biggest thing, and it was kind of true for a lot of the game, but they did not go to Porzingis at all down the stretch. And to be fair, like Jason was playing really well. Jaylen was playing pretty well, but I'm not sure who it's on. I personally assign the blame to Jason, Jaylen, and Jrue for not putting Porzingis into the actions, because they know they're going to go back and watch this film and be like, this is disgusting. We're ISOing Jaden McDaniels, which may be the best wing defender in the NBA. Like, it's him, OG Anunoby. You know, those guys are like at the top of the list. And to just go at them 1v1, and even I feel like Tatum had more success. He attacked him a couple times in the post, but doing the thing where he's dancing from the perimeter, which he's been really good at this year. And look, Tatum is probably not the best place to start for like why we lost this game. Because like obviously he had did it get to 6 turnovers in the end?
Tatum himself? Yeah, 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
16 team turnovers.
Yeah. So that's obviously was the worst part of his game. But it starts with his decision to attack certain guys 1v1. And he was doing it over and over again. I think it was almost like the success that he had doing it led him to try and do it more. Because he did get them a couple times. But where he hit that step back 3, but that was on Nas Reed where he finally got a switch. And that was the mistake, was going to the same shit over and over again against McDaniels and Edwards as well.
Yeah, credit Jaden McDaniels, man.
He's good.
He was locked down. And we know that about him. If we know that, scouting departments know about that as well. So it does boggle the mind as to why they continue to try and go at him. And then there was an action that the C's ran a couple of times in overtime, which was Jrue handling the ball with Jaylen Brown setting the screen. They did it in 2 consecutive possessions. I think it resulted in turnovers both times. They were just getting nothing out of it. And it was at that point that Scal was like, what are you guys doing? Like, bring Porzingis up to set the screen. Like, use your tools as they were designed, rather than, for whatever reason, choosing that as your method of attack. It was very frustrating, even without Derek White out of the game, without Derek White in the game, rather. So many options still. And to have JB as the screen setter, like, not necessarily a notably good screen setter. And it was a rough game for Jrue as well, despite all of that.
Awful.
So to go with that down the stretch was very, very confusing, to say the least.
Yes. It's a good action, and you can get some good stuff out of it at times. And they did. Like, I know they got the small action with Jaylen and Jason, and they got that. That's what led to that super clutch Jaylen 3 in the corner that put them up by 3 for like 5 seconds, and then Jaylen McDaniels hit his own clutch three down the other end. I don't understand it. I don't know, whose fault do you think it is? Because that's a point of contention on the timeline. I know Mitch in the chat here, he's anti-Joe broadly. Is that too hard to say, Mitch? But especially tonight, I know there's a faction of anti-Joe people out there. Like, I think it's on Jason and Jrue and then Jaylen. They all know this shit. Put KP in the action.
Yeah.
ISO 1, 2. If you go back to the 5th, 6th, 7th ISO in a row, that's on you guys.
Yeah, I mean, can't it be both? Like, can't it
Yes.
also be? It can't
That's
be
the correct
expect the
answer.
coach to provide the right guidance, such that they know what actions to call, who to call up for a screen, or in Porzingis' case, don't even wait for the call, just go and set the screen. Like, can't it come from both sides? And then even if it's not coming from Joe, expect the players to make those calls as well. They've been in these situations time and time and time again. Maybe you can say Porzingis hasn't played that much competitive basketball in his career. Fine, the Jays have. Call them up for the screen. So I think everyone's at fault here. It takes, this is the wrong expression, but it takes two to tango. It takes a whole team to shit the bed, and their coaching staff to shit the bed like they did tonight. And
So you're telling me it's a nuanced answer. It's not just one.
if you can believe that. NBA Twitter, X, it's a nuanced answer. And also, like, the simplest explanation, Occam's Rozier, we call it here at First of the Floor, is often the most likely one. Is this loss low-key good in that, like, water finds its level a little bit? It gives us a demo of some of the issues that we need to work on throughout the year. We're still first in the East, although we are going up against the Sixers in a couple of days' time, they have the same record now, 5-1, but they're technically second in the East. Is it sneaky good in that we kind of don't get too big for our boots, and that we have an opportunity to now review a lot of taped failure and fuck-ups on the part of the Celtics and start to rein it in a little bit?
The problem is, with this team and in general, I feel like we've said that so many times. Is this good? This is their chance to learn from their mistakes. And I think it is good in the sense that, like, the film session, I wonder if Joe learned anything from. Remember that when Ime had started coaching the Celtics, and they were playing like shit for the first half of the season, and they had that road trip where they lost to the Clippers, and I don't know, it was disgusting. And then there was that famous film session where he just put all the, like, embarrassing defense, like, soft shit together, and then called everybody out. I hope Joe learned a little bit from that, and honestly, this film session from this game wouldn't be like that. The effort defensively, I thought, was fantastic tonight. Personally, like, it wasn't a perfectly executed defense, but I thought people were flying around, like, getting hands on rebounds. Like, everybody was like, this is an amazing game. Like,
Physical game as well.
This was like a gritty game, and I thought Celtics came to, like, match the level of intensity necessary to win the game. It was an execution problem, not a defense problem. So, Joe, I think, has plenty. Yeah, is it a good thing? No. I think it would have been great to be 6-0, and that they could have still learnt equally if they would have just stopped Anthony Edwards' run and not ISO'd in the last minute. But we can still grow from it regardless.
Yeah, I mean, start by not running the Jrue JB pick and roll down the stretch while Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley score consecutive buckets on the other end, which is, like, absolutely the specific moment where the Celtics let go of the rope. There were a few good Joe moments. He hacker Rudy with 13 seconds left in, like, legal hacker shack time. That was cool. Then we scored down the other end off that. Jrue Holiday on Karl Anthony Towns was great until some way through the third quarter, where Karl Towns, first of all, was playing because the foul trouble had sort of dissipated, and then he decided to go at Jrue Holiday, but it worked for a little while there. So there were some good Jrue moments, or Joe moments rather, in this game. So I don't think he's solely responsible for the bed shitting, but
also he had the challenge on Towns where Jrue gets called for a foul on Towns where he hits an and one, I think would have put the Timberwolves up 5 and then instead flips it, not to just get the foul reversed, but it's an offensive foul on Cat, which then puts him further into foul trouble, which maybe if you're galaxy braining this thing was actually a bad thing because more Karl Anthony Towns was actually a good thing, whereas assigning an extra foul to him was bad. But regardless, you took a foul off Jrue and you reversed an and one on a good foul shooter. So which is like just a 3-point swing. I don't remember if they scored off that possession right now after the challenge, but it was an elite challenge.
We did. Yeah, we did, and they deducted rather a bucket from the Wolves as a result of overturning the call. So great Joe moment. Unfortunately, didn't work out in the end. We do have a quick clip here from Joe talking about the late game execution.
That sequence where Edwards got hot, 3 consecutive baskets, did you consider a timeout? What happened in that sequence, and why couldn't you defend him like you kind of wanted to tonight?
I thought we did for most of the game. He's a great player. He's going to make shots. I thought he made some difficult ones. That small stretch that you're talking about, he got loose kind of in transition, and we gave him the one thing that he's great at, which is those shake and raise threes. And so you got to be able to take those away in the flow of a game. And I thought we did a good job taking away his tendencies the majority of the game. But he's a hell of a player, and he's going to make tough shots. And I thought he did that. And we like to save our timeouts to have 2 under, which allowed us to kind of, I can't remember, did we go 2 for 1 in the fourth quarter or in overtime? But either way, no, when it's a 5-point game, we managed it well. We went to the flip play, and KP got to the free throw line, and then we cut it to a 1-possession game. And so, no, I didn't think about that. But you just have to be able to fight to take away tendencies. I thought that was a hell of a game. It was a lot of fun. It was very competitive. And our opponents are always going to bring the best out of us. And so I thought we competed at a high level. I thought their defensive toughness outmatched our offensive toughness at times. But I thought both teams played a really good game for Game 5 of the year.
Presented by your New England Ford dealers. Built for America. Built Ford proud.
Not an endorsed sponsor. Free first to the floor.
There you go. Free ad for a Ford for the 15 people in the chat right now.
I'll take my free Ford immediately. Thanks, Sports Boston. I think that's a fair evaluation of the game by Joe Mazzulla. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, so comment here from DJ Daniel, a regular on the CLNS network. Not trapping Edwards down the stretch is mind-boggling. They trapped him a lot, though, in the fourth, and maybe not as much as people wanted, but they did trap him a lot and were these late traps where Jrue did have a really nice play, getting a turnover. The problem was the Celtics weren't making any shots in overtime. And it makes it so much the Timberwolves were getting all the semi-transition looks, and it just makes it so much more difficult to set your defense and execute traps and stay and then also have those rotations behind those traps ready to go. Whereas those guys are taking early shot clock transition pull up mid ranges, getting the baseline, and some of them look, man, Joe's right. He made some fucking tough shots. Yes, those last few possessions, they didn't trap him, but sure. Again, Joe not blameless. Could have maybe trapped him more, but all of the issues were on the other end, which has been the issue with this team for years now. And that third quarter, that's where I'm pointing to. Has NBA.com opened up the box score?
I don't think so. No.
Yet? Yes, they have. There we go.
Oh, great.
The third quarter. Do you want to try and guess the field goal makes and attempts
for the Celtics?
For the Celtics?
Makes and attempts. I have no idea.
Or percentage, if that's too hard for you.
Oh, it felt like they were shooting low 40s field goal wise. In the third.
They were 6 for 23, 26.1% in the third quarter. So, What do we like to say here on First to the Floor? The game was won and lost in the third quarter because in the fourth quarter, they were 9 for 14, 64.3. So, look, they were actually fantastic in the fourth quarter. And in the clutch, Tatum was amazing in the fourth quarter to force it to overtime. They were down like what, 5 or so, like with a couple minutes to go, and they brought it back in the fourth. The overtime was the real problem. And this is what I was saying. Like it was almost like it was a bad thing that Tatum found success in the fourth quarter with the ISOs, but look, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I maintain that it helps temper expectations. So we finally notch a loss here, and it just helps us sort of reset a little bit, right? And, you know, to be in a position to win, Jaylen Brown, and there's some comments here in the chat, like Emmanuel here, saying that Jaylen took a real bad shot before regulation. I'm guessing that means like to end regulation. He showed no sense of urgency to win the game. Like to be in a position against the league's number one defense, the league's best defense, to win a game on the road that's a good position to be in and a hard position to put oneself in, I think. And only, you know, a certain echelon of team can get there. The shot didn't go down. I mean, you can argue all day. And I guess this is a question I'll ask you, Jake. Like, do you agree that Jaylen Brown should have taken that shot? Do you agree that it was the right shot? And do you think it's an issue that like someone else like Jason Tatum isn't taking that shot instead?
No, I loved the shot. Didn't go down. I will take that shot, tie game, every day of the week. You call a timeout. Sure, you can draw up a play. We tried that another time, and Al Horford just fell down, which to Z-Gamer's tweet to me is an outlier. Like, I typically trust Al to be pretty solid in those moments, but like, he's not dynamic enough to just like chuck the ball to with like 3 seconds left and be able to save the day. I would much rather go against this defense in particular in transition or semi-transition and live with a Jaylen Brown pretty much wide open pull-up 3. I will say, though, that they went too slow on that possession. Sure. Like, I would have liked Jaylen to push the pace and probe the rim. Like, maybe not like force a shot at the rim, but like get downhill and like dribble back around, then find someone else for another shot. But that's look, DJ Daniel run a play where you can throw a foul. Sure. But like maybe they don't call it. Like the whistle in this game was like pretty messy on both sides. Yeah. I actually thought the Celtics got the whistle more so in this game than the Timberwolves. Even though the refs definitely missed a couple on Tatum, I thought. But I would much rather clean look, one of your best players. Jaylen's been awesome on pull-up threes so far this season. I live with that. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, watching the replay and seeing Tatum standing a few feet away, just watching it all go down, in hindsight, that's like, he was right there. But it was a good shot. It was open. Yeah. Jaylen had a good game and some really, really, really amazing highlights, one of which we're going to get to very soon.
Well, yeah, he just made a big one.
Yeah, exactly. And like he's capable. And, you know, another question here in the chat, or a statement rather from DJ Daniel. I think Joe should have called a timeout with Jaylen dribbling at the logo with 6 seconds. It's always damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, because if you don't call the timeout and he gets the shot and they win the game, it's like, the presence of mind to let the guys play out the game and, you know, take advantage of the defensive mismatches. And if you do call it, you know, then you go from there. The narrative unravels from there. So the only thing that matters in that instance is the win. And last year when we were really looking at timeouts, late game timeouts under a microscope, I think the stats bore out that like statistically, it didn't really matter in the history of the NBA whether or not you called late game timeouts. So Joe and the guys at that point in time thought they saw something they could take advantage of. They got an open shot and it just missed. So I can live with that. That's fine. Anything else? We start to move down the box score a little bit. Yeah,
I was gonna say like maybe you want him to get maybe further downhill because it's a tie game. You don't need the pull up 3. Maybe you just. But like I just think he went to a place that he was comfortable. Then that's fine. It's just. You know, whatever.
Yeah, and I think like it's low-key important for JB to have some of those opportunities with all of the attention that Tatum is getting, especially with his insane hot start and him being a huge part of the MVP conversation, averaging over 30 points a game, more attempts and shots, etc. than Jaylen Brown. For Jaylen to just get a little moment in the spot like that even though it didn't work out, I think that's really important for Jaylen and the team chemistry also. So 5-1. we can live with this. Let's lose every 6 games. I'm cool with that.
Great plan. Look, what is that? What's so 5 out of 6? That's like that probably feels like a 70 win pace. I don't know.
Thereabouts.
60,
yeah, your
something.
math is as good as mine. Should we get before we get down to like the Cornets and the Lamar Stevens of the world and whatever else? Let's just get to this incredible play from Jaylen Brown, which unfortunately it's going to be stained with.
Yeah.
There's a previous Jaylen Brown dunk, just to give it
Yes.
away here, on Donovan Mitchell from I think a year ago, where we all know watching that highlight. Well, the Celtics went on to lose that game, unfortunately. So this is going to be stung with that flavor as well. But it was a ridiculous poster, so we do have to play it here.
Brown obliges on the blow by. Stuffs it.
That is a man's jam, Jake.
That's
Wow.
Can we get the replay here? No, we're not.
let's.
Do you want to run it again?
We can run it again, but I was gonna say there's a bunch of these from Jaylen. He has the Rudy one, the Donovan Mitchell one, the one on Maxi Kleber against the Mavs on KG's retirement night. He just absolutely murders Maxi. I think it's Maxi Kleber. He high fives KG in the crowd, and they go on to lose a heartbreaker. Stop ruining these highlights, please, Celtics. Enough of this.
Yeah, but like Gobert is such a solid target. Like
Yeah,
I'm no
100,
mountaineer, but if it's not Everest, then it's like K2 or something.
K2, any of the Himalayan mountain range would be where I'd put Gobert, absolutely. It was a monster jam, and like the fact that he fell down, and Jaylen's, I thought, really executed the step over well, because if you actually step over, you'll incur a technical foul. He stepped kind of like just to the left over him, but facing away to the left into the crowd at the baseline, which I thought gave you the feel of stepping over while actually not stepping over, giving you a great moment. If you shoot it from the right way, he was flexing. I hope Brett Hampton was sitting on the baseline somewhere down there to get that done.
Yeah, they won't explore all the content available to them because it was a loss. Like I think they understand like the ratio of clicks they get and don't get for wins and losses. But yeah, out there
For now,
somewhere, yes, that's true. The championship DVD, I'm sure it'll feature heavily.
That's right.
The turning point before they rattled off 20 straight wins. Okay, we're getting into like the miscellaneous stuff. Unless you've got anything else macro you want to get to. And I should say, for anyone who's new to the late night show, this won't be on our podcast feed. Subscribe to the First to the Floor podcast if you haven't already. It's available everywhere, including on this YouTube channel. This is us just spitballing and hanging out after the game and hanging out with everyone in the chat, which we love to do pretty much more than anything we do with First to the Floor. Tomorrow, though, we will have the podcast and we'll have like a sort of a more refined recap as Jake lowers a beer into the Bob Cousy there.
Just to put a punctuation on that. This is the fun zone. Not that the podcast in the morning is not fun. It's actually very, very fun. But
it's very serious.
Yeah, we'll take time. I'll go back and watch the fourth quarter. We'll pull clips and look at the stats and have a bit more of an idea of like how we feel about it. Because in the moment, like you're gonna feel a certain way, but like you go back and watch some of this stuff and sometimes you feel better, sometimes you feel worse, but you just generally have a better idea, which we'll be doing tomorrow. Please come and watch.
Yeah, and like the tracking data is out as well, which is kind of a huge point of evaluating the game, and we just get a little bit more of an insight and just time to watch highlights and digest it and not react necessarily as emotionally as we are.
I was gonna say we're emotional. We're like my heart was pumping. Like I hadn't. That was maybe I was actually more. Actually, no, the Heat game I was feeling more emotional, but that was more like a hate fueled emotion. Whereas this was just this was just a pure. This felt like a playoff game to me, honestly. Like once we got down the stretch, like it was just gritty. It was a rock fight, back and forth. You took the lead, you went back down. There was so many lead changes, big runs, big moments from Edwards, from Tatum, from Jaylen. So like, yeah, I can't be logical and sound after that. So yeah.
But everything you just said, like that's why I wanted and needed the win, right? It was that kind of game where it's just like you could just imagine the conversation after the game, like they found a way to pull it out. It was one of those do anything it takes to win kind of games. And for a second there, it looked like, they went up by 4 or so in overtime.
Correct.
It looked like they were going to do it, and I just could not wait for that to be the focal point of the conversation. What do you got there, Jake?
I was just like, Rivens does make a good point. Who knows? There could be someone from Cascade Draft watching this stream here. Actually, there is some guys working in a brewery, not Cascade Draft, in Tasmania, that were talking to my brother-in-law who was telling them about this podcast. He was like, Jake from a Celtics podcast. My mate that works at the brewery plays this Celtics podcast out loud, and it's an Aussie guy and his name is Jake. And I was like, it has to be us. I was like, there's I don't know another Aussie Jake that does a Celtics podcast. So shout out to that guy. Them. Huge. But yeah, anything from this game in particular, I just think it's important to note how bad Jrue Holiday was.
Mm-hmm. Say more. I mean,
just because I've been there, I'm not sure he's that much better than Marcus Smart guy. And hey, man, Marcus Smart could have done what Jrue Holiday did today.
Shot the bed and lost the game. Sure.
Yeah, like he 4 for 16, 0 for 4 from 3. I thought he in the Nets game, he takes some disastrous shots. He just makes more of them than Marcus. So far, up until today, has made more shots than Marcus Smart.
Yeah, and I've since learnt that was a warning that Milwaukee Bucks fans fired up to Celtics fans. Like, wait and see. Like, ill-advised shots down the stretch. And apparently, 1 in every 5 games is what's common for Jrue, just to sort of feel the need to sort of, I won't say take over because it was far from that, but just to put up all of these shots despite the plethora of far better options around him. Frustrating.
Well, here's the thing, right? So obviously Derek White's out, so that completely changed. He's basically the point guard now, so he's just gonna have the ball a lot more. He didn't take that many shots, right? He took 16 shots, but he's been averaging 9.8 shots, I think, coming into tonight, which I think is the perfect spot for Jrue Holiday. Mm-hmm. There was the exact same stat with Smart. It was when he takes more than 10 shots, this team has a bad win-loss record. I don't have the number at the top of my head right now.
I think that's about right. I think it was 11, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But it was that range, and then when he was below that number, the Celtics were elite. Look, I agree that he did take some good shots, but I also feel like he takes a lot of early shot clock threes, and I feel like I want him shooting at 5th most if Derek White's playing right now. I think he missed 4 point blank shots, but yeah, I agree. But he does that, and that's why I think when he's just scaling back his role just a tiny bit, once the usage goes up, is when things start to go bad. Which is why Milwaukee Bucks fans have these feelings about Jrue, and is why I feel much better about Jrue in this context, because the role is completely different. He's not the second or third option. He is the 4th or the 5th option, which until this point has been absolutely perfect, and he's been shooting 60% from the field. And again, how much did Marcus Smart love when one guy was out to be it's Marcus Smart time guy? There are so many parallels, and it's okay. It's a good thing. There was no order of operations for us to keep Smart and get Porzingis because of how everything played out with Bogdan and the Clippers. So I'm willing to concede, for whatever argument's sake, that Drew's better than Marcus. But the point of Brad making the trade was that we needed a Marcus Smart version in that spot to really round out the roster. And I think if Brad could go back, he may he would prefer to just do Brogdon for Porzingis. Now we're going way off. Classic Jake. But yeah. You know what I mean? It was a Marcus Smart game.
As longtime Celtics fans, this might be a conversation we're having for years.
Forever.
Even if we win, could we still have done it with Marcus? If we do win the whole thing, I think we're always going to be thinking, what if, when it comes to Marcus Smart. And, with Jrue Holiday, the real thing has been he's co-point guard with Derek White, and he's been missing his partner in crime, the other half of the stock exchange. And it'll be interesting to see if and when we get a block of games with all Derek White and no Jrue Holiday, to see if there's similar issues, both offensive. Well, I'll say offensively, because defensively I thought we were
Agreed.
better tonight than the Nets
Defense
game.
was really good today, I thought, for the most part.
Yeah, and with that Nets game, like just to hark back a little bit, like the challenge that presented to us when they were playing like all wings.
Such a weird game.
Yeah, and it put Porzingis in a really tough spot and Al in a really tough spot as well. So defense was sort of back up on board tonight, and what you said was a really physical game. But yeah, offensively, Jrue just some tough decisions tonight, which you hope of all the people who are capable of like sitting down, studying film, evaluating one's performance, where they can go from here, as far as they fit with the team. It's got to be one of the older guys on the team, the championship winner himself, Jrue Holiday, right? Am I wrong? I need to go to sleep tonight thinking that's going to happen.
I don't think that's who he is. I think he's a...
Oh, shit.
I think he makes wild decisions. But that's why in this context, with these guys healthy, he is a perfect fit. I will say, like, if you're going to rank, I don't know. Basically, my point is, for us to win the title, health is like paramount. Or maybe it's just like Derek, I think has elevated to a point where he is that important. And he's just playing that well that like he really makes this team hum at another level. And that could be a comfort level thing for Jrue. It is important to remember that he was traded here like less than a month ago. Or like pretty much exactly a month ago. I know that because my wedding was a month ago and he got traded like 3 days before that.
Happy 1 month anniversary, man.
Thank you. So that's also an important thing to keep in mind is he's still kind of figuring it out. But man, there was a few times where it was like he should have taken the shot, but he passed and it was a turnover. And he passed when so... He may have gotten more comfortable, but disaster class from Jrue, which is important to note.
Let me ask a tough question, and then we'll get to a comment that's up thread a bit that I want to highlight, and then we'll get a quick word from our sponsor, FanDuel. This is a tough question. I could barely even ask it, but like if someone like a wizard in the middle of the night came to you and was like, Jake, I have the magical ability to just switch back wizards. Marcus instead of Jrue. Everything else remains the same, but the team going forward is Marcus Smart as the starting point guard instead of Jrue Holiday. Would you do it? Because I think that despite everything we're saying, I think we'd still prefer Jrue Holiday. Am I wrong?
Yes, we would. Yes, we would prefer Jrue Holiday. We're going to ignore the extra picks, and we don't even really need to ignore Rob Williams, which we're going to get to in a bit. I do think the element of leadership and accountability that has been thrust onto the Jays is important and something that I think that we've talked about a lot, but especially through the first 6 games, there's nowhere to hide. This is on Tatum and Jaylen down the stretch, making the same decisions that they always have. Marcus Smart got a lot of that blame, and Jrue deserves blame for today as well. But Tatum needs to step up and fix that problem in overtime. He needs to get to the top of the key, call Porzingis over, put Jrue in the corner, and say, you're not touching the ball anymore. Whereas with Marcus, it was just going to always be more difficult because I do believe that they needed a change in chemistry as well, at least a little bit. So I would not change it back. I'm just flying the flag of it's Marcus Smart. It was not his fault.
Innocent bystander
and he's really
process.
Yeah, which you agree with. And Marcus Smart is really good. And Jrue Holiday maybe not quite as good as people are like thinking. Because if his best role is like the 5th guy, then we don't need to overdo it with how good he is.
Yeah, agreed. Z Gamer agrees with you as well. Jrue is an overall better player who does a better job of playing with pace late. Smart and Tatum had a bad habit of slowing down the game late, and that was a major issue. Absolutely.
I do agree with that. I love the Jrue. And the pace at no point in the 4th or overtime felt like an issue to me.
Yeah. TJ Daniel, apparently my brain can't say those words together. Smart will always feel the need to be the alpha. The Jays needed to feel like they are leaders. And there's a comment I wanted to get back to up a thread here somewhere. Here we go. from Rivens. Sorry about my last reply to your Wizards post about your bitch about Pritch. I obviously had too many Kosciuszko pale ales plugged for free beers that night. Is this your bitch about Pritch? Maybe I missed that, Jake. Was that you?
Probably. I feel like I may have been the hardest on Pritchard so far. I've probably been the hardest in general on the team so far. But maybe this is no time like the present. Pritchard fucking sucked again.
What about the offensive rebounds? He was everywhere.
Come on,
Wilt.
man.
He was Wilt on the boards.
Okay, well, to be fair, he was a team high plus 13. Yeah, wait, have we found a way to blame Smart for tonight's loss?
Yes.
Yeah, only Marcus Smart. See, he makes winning plays to the point where he can take the blame for a loss he's not even here for. Well, Pritchard sucked again. I mean, the offensive rebounds are nice, but dude, he's like tanking the offense when he's out there. I don't know how he was a plus 13. That's why these stats are terrible.
So rough.
And well, I think, honestly, the most telling stat is 0 for 1. 1 being the operative number. Dude, he's so hesitant out there. He's so hesitant. He's like, he should be like camped out like above the break on the threes and he's just like pump faking. He's not even pump faking. He's like they're pump fakes kind of because he's considering shooting, and then he changes his mind and then drives also hesitantly, and he can't get past anyone when he's being confident. Yeah, man, the preseason Pro MP. I'm glad he got paid because, gee whiz, he's like not earning himself a contract. Like TJ McConnell's going to love it here this time next year.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he'll turn it around? It's been like a kind of, we can't really call him young anymore, right?
No, well, because I do think that he's talented and I do think that he can be good. The problem, I think, is a theory that I've been working on is that he needs like 20 minutes a game. And how many did he play tonight? Because I feel like he played 20. Well, shit, man. Because his best season as a pro was his rookie season. Mm-hmm. And it was when he played like 19 and a half minutes a game.
Yep.
But he's like not in... we thought he maybe caught a rhythm last game. And look, the Timberwolves defense is literally the best D in the league this far through. Needs to watch Gabe Vincent tapes. Part of the thing is like... he's just not an athlete, Pritchard. And so, like, if he's going to be out there, he needs to weaponize his range. Like, he's an elite shooter. I absolutely believe that. We have a sample size all the way through college, all the way through the pros, summer league, preseason. He has the three-point shot, and it's the only reason he got that $7.5 million contract. He has to use it.
Yeah, and the most elite shooters are the most confident. And the confidence...
Sam Hauser.
Exactly, yeah. But even like the Currys of the world, like they're so confident in their
What do you mean?
skill.
Sam Hauser's not...
Sorry, I didn't mean to besmirch the great name of Sam House Money Hauser. But Pritchard, like he doesn't have confidence in the right setting, in the right context. Preseason where nothing matters, the stakes are non-existent, let alone low. Great. Chuck them up, they're all going in. But when it matters and, the tracking stats are switched on and we're all evaluating every possession, every moment, like he's just not getting it done, which is really tough. I don't even want to really go down the whole rabbit hole of like, well, at least his salary is a really tradable piece because we're not there yet. Like we gave Hauser some time, right? We've got to give Pritchard some time as well.
True, but yes, we did. We did give Hauser some time. So next game we play Philly. Are you going to Pritchard again? Are you giving him 20 minutes?
Let you know as soon as we hear a word from our sponsor, FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Shout out FanDuel. Shout out CLNS. And the podcast that we do at 8 p.m. East tomorrow night, live on YouTube. It's going to be on this channel, First to the Floor. Make sure you subscribe, but also over on the CLNS main channel and the CLNS Celtics channel as well. And shout out Eric Weiss, who is getting some much-needed family time in. I can't blame the guy after a disappointing Celtics loss. But check out our latest podcast where Eric White was a guest on the show and is just a fountain of knowledge when it's just one of those unique situations where you get a person of extremely high intelligence who invests way too much time in the Celtics and the outcome is an epic 1.5 hour podcast, which was a lot of fun. So before we went into the ad break, Jake, you mentioned the Sixers game and whether or not we could utilize PP against the Sixers. I don't think we can, because I think we want to win that game, and it's more. Yeah. There's a lot going into it, right? So we're now officially jockeying for position with the Sixers at the top of the East. There's I think a situation with hang on, before I get to that, a comment from Eric, so we can let him get off to his family here. He says, nothing discouraging about tonight. Solid defensive effort. Really needed to work tonight for points. The coaches love tape like this. A lot of teachable moments. Yeah, that was our angle to begin this show, was like it could sneakily be a low-key good thing, and that it gives us some something to study and before we get too big for our boots. So, I don't know. Do you want to expand on that, Jake, before I get back to the Sixers?
No, just would you play Pritchard? Like,
no, because I want to win.
Yeah, like we don't have, I think we said it the last couple of episodes, is we don't have time to like work through a young player's growing pains.
Yeah.
Especially in the game against the Sixers. Like, we have plenty of games. Like, that's like a tier 1 game. It's a tier 1 game. Right now, they could easily, as it stands, I would bet the Sixers are far more likely to be the 2 seed than the Bucks. They have looked so much better. The Bucks again escaped by the skin of their teeth against the Nets, where Cam Thomas, did he go for like 36 points? 40 points today?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he cooked. Everybody's cooking the Bucks. As far as I know, my friend that was watching the game was like, the Bucks are very lucky to win that game. I would go to Svi. I know he's not going to be scared against the Sixers. Svi Mikhailiuk.
Couple of double pump reverse slams.
Why not? You know. So like Lamar Stevens, my guy, our guy. He kind of got a chance, but like not really.
Got 4.5 minutes.
Yeah. Like I do appreciate Joe trying to use the bench, because he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 deep. But does it really count if you go 10 deep when 2 of those guys play? One of them plays 4 minutes and 23 seconds and the other one plays 3 minutes and 51 seconds?
Or when you go into overtime because your bench kind of shut the bed and all your guys end up playing, like Tatum, 42 minutes, basically 43. Al Horford, 36 minutes on his old brittle bones. No, thank you. Porzingis, 36 minutes. Jaylen, 40 minutes. Jrue, 42. So, like, you lean on the bench, but, you know, and the attempt is to lighten the load on your starters, but sometimes it works out to your detriment as well. So,
but that's the thing. Like, I don't think that, even though the bench wasn't good, and even though Jason Tatum and the bench is good, and he was tasked with carrying a bench lineup of Tatum and the white boys, it was Svi, Hauser, Pritchard, Cornette, Tatum. And man, Tatum is good. Tatum is a top 5 player in the NBA. That is a tall task. That is a tall task.
Yeah, look, it was rough. So, going up against the Sixers, Pritchard, unless Joe sees a groove to slot him in where he thinks he can be effective, I just don't think you're exploiting anything on the Sixers side with Payton in there. And, I don't know. It's like we can't justify not playing him at all because of his place in the rotation. So, maybe we can sub him out for one game and just like justify it as it's a situational matchup-based approach. But long term, like when you think of all of Pritchard's frustrations last year, you have to play him, or if you're thinking about not playing him, you kind of have to be shopping him in lieu of benching him, because I don't think that you can bench him for team chemistry's sake. I
think you can. I think you can.
Way more cutthroat than I am. This is why I'm not involved with any NBA team ever. I don't have the guts for it.
We can't bench Pritchard, but we can trade away the heart and soul of the team of the past 9 years. Dude, Payton Pritchard complained all season, asked for trades multiple times because he wasn't getting playing time. Somewhat understandable. Kind of annoying considering how good the Boston Celtics were. And we had this little annoying buzzing noise of Payton Pritchard complaining about not getting enough playing time when he was behind Derek White, Jrue Holiday, and Malcolm Brogdon. It's like, dude, you're nowhere near as good as any of the three of those guys. And then you do get the playing time. You're given the seventh man, eighth man role on one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the NBA, and you're not able to take advantage of it after whinging all fucking year. Yeah, that's annoying. You complained all year long, and now you're the worst player in the rotation, which is fair because he was always going to be 7th or 8th, but he's been terrible.
I won't lie, I missed a lot of that because I accidentally locked my wife out of the house and just had to go and let her in.
Sorry, Rivens. I know, but he complained all year and he gets his chance and he's been awful.
So then, I guess just zooming out a little bit and looking at the Sixers game as we begin to to wrap up here.
Beer number 2. It's got me going on PP apparently.
Well, how are you feeling going into this game against the Sixers? Because I think if you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, the matchup would have looked and felt a lot less threatening than it does now, where they've been playing quite well. Embiid had, I think, a historic third quarter today. I'm yet to watch that game, but I think he was 10 for 10, 29 points in the third quarter. I thought Porzingis, maybe for the first point in the season today, looked a little light in the arse, to borrow a term from Charles Barkley. And Gobert was giving him a little bit of trouble under the bucket there at times. And if anyone in the entire league is going to do that, it's going to be Joel Embiid. So I'm worried about that exploit from the Sixers perspective. I'm worried about, we're talking about PP, what can we get from our bench? We need something from our bench. And I'm just worried in general because I hate the Sixers so very, very much. And I feel like right now they may be more poised to beat us in this regular season matchup than they may have been for a while. So talk me off the ledge here, or indeed join me on the ledge if you feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's almost embarrassing that Joel Embiid needed to have such a big third quarter against the Wizards. We had that game wrapped up in the first quarter. It's honestly that there's no more quintessential Joel Embiid behavior than padding his MVP stats in a third quarter against the Washington Wizards. There's nothing that is more Joel Embiid than that. I do think, though, that them sending out PJ Tucker, because before that trade, I was against the Sixers, I would just start Al, make him the primary guy on Embiid, and then you have Porzingis roam off of PJ Tucker. Now, though, today they started Embiid, Maxey, Melton, Tobias Harris, and Kelly Oubre. You can help off Tobias. You're not really terrified of Tobias Harris. And honestly, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm totally fine with KP being able to handle Tobias Harris. I don't think Tobias Harris has the athleticism and off the bounce juice to really get Porzingis. KP's been pretty good on the perimeter against far more agile offensive players than Tobias Harris. So I would probably start Al in this game coming up and I would bring Jrue off the bench. That's what I would do because Derek's better.
Yeah, I mean, Jrue was one of the more vocal guys in the preseason interviews about, needing to sacrifice, and everyone from top down in the roster needing to sacrifice. So, get him to put his money where his mouth is and bring him off the bench. Yeah, but I mean, certainly Al Horford needs to feature way more heavily than he typically would when it's coming up against Joel Embiid. And I think just having Horford out there and almost mirroring Embiid's minutes will put the fear in Embiid's eyes and make him, if nothing else, just have to work harder for his buckets and work harder on both ends. And then, we had some comments here about Porzingis. Like, you kind of like that matchup because he brings Embiid out to the perimeter. Al has always done the same thing. And KP is just a more extreme version of that. Like, he's going to bring him all the way out beyond the three-point arc, potentially. So, it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I haven't had a look at the odds yet. I'm not sure if they're out yet. Obviously, you would assume that the Celtics are the betting favorite. But emotionally, like going into it, it's a stressful game.
It's a 1.5 point line favor of the Celtics. So,
right.
But I wonder if that's baking in any Derek White stuff. I don't know. But, I doubt it. The word on the street, for lack of a better term, was that Derek White just couldn't make it to Minnesota in time, but he was probable or whatever it was to make the game. So I think he'll well and truly be back for Philadelphia. And because it's a road game, he's just had a newborn. He's probably had no sleep at all the last couple of nights, and then he gets to stay in a hotel room in Philadelphia the night before the game and have beautiful babyless sleep. So he'll be right for the game. Yes, you would have a better understanding of this situation than me. But yeah, I imagine he'll be sleep deprived. I do remember him coming back from his first child and being excellent. But Derek White's pretty much always excellent. So it's hard to kind of pass these things. But I see DJ Daniel is expecting the Celtics to lose. Something you're forgetting about the recent Celtics is the bounce back Celtics. These Celtics are elite coming off a loss. I understand they're different, but the head of the spear is Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and they have been fantastic coming off losses for the past 2 seasons. And I would expect them to come in very locked in. They may lose because that's the NBA and it's one game, but I absolutely expect them to watch this film. Jason Tatum might watch the highlights of him dropping 51 points on the Philadelphia Sixers in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals as a way to hype himself up. This defensive matchup, this is how you beat the Celtics, always has been. You have a defense that can short-circuit their offense. The Sixers have not had that ever because Joel Embiid can't really bother Tatum deep into a game consistently. And now it's going to be interesting to have KP into the mix, and especially after a game where they didn't use him enough. Now that we're talking about it, FanDuel, I'll be betting the over on Porzingis made threes, I think. I think he's going to get him up.
He's going to get him up, and we need them to go down. His percentages have definitely taken a dip since that first game where he was particularly in the fourth quarter, just like letting them rain. But it's going to be an essential part of beating the Sixers. And for as much as I'm shitting myself about this Sixers matchup because I just can't handle the idea of losing to the Sixers or even winning, but like giving them something to be hopeful for. That's how much I despise them. I mean, with all that in mind, you've just got to imagine how much the Sixers themselves are shitting themselves with historically how dominant we've been over them. So that makes me happy as we have time to sort of stew on it going into that matchup. But yeah, I don't think PP will have a featurely. I do think that Porzingis is going to have Embiid out there on an island, and it's going to be a really exciting matchup. And hopefully after a bit of a falter tonight against the Timberwolves, it's going to put us back on top as far as like the conversation about being the most dominant team in the league. So I look forward to that. A couple of points before we wrap this up, Jake. Luke Cornett, he's been good. Last couple of games, well, we talked about giving people time.
Yeah,
just a second ago, talked about giving PP time. Cornett, we gave him some time. We wrote him off quite early, but now he's been impactful, you might say, off the bench.
Someone reminded him that his contract's not fully guaranteed, it appears, because
his accountant.
His accountant. Yeah. Luke's accountant was like, dude, you've been spending a lot of money on these baked goods you keep bringing to the locker room. You better actually grab a couple of rebounds because this is not going to look like a fully guaranteed contract. He's been fantastic in his role. Like, all things are relative in this world. Battling on the boards, battling on the boards. Be tall and strong. He's looked very tall and strong for 2 games in a row now, which is all I could
how
ask.
many rebounds he had tonight?
Ah, shit. It's got to be 3, maybe max.
It's 1.
Really?
How did he only have 1 rebound?
But it's not about the numbers, man. It's about how does it feel.
Yeah.
How does it
I feel
feel?
he definitely had some tip outs, which they haven't attributed to him on the box score, where he generated extra possessions. Like, I know that happened. So that's just not fallen his way, unfortunately. But
I'll have to go back and look.
He's been not a Luke Cornett negative, which is what
He's been Luke Cornett positive.
There you go.
He's back. He's back.
I think we should
lovely.
start to wrap up here. Final thoughts from folks in the comments, and look, if you've got any angles, any segment ideas for tomorrow's podcast, and you want to let us know what you want included in that podcast live here on YouTube, 8 p.m. East tomorrow night, let us know. But Jake, any final thoughts?
I was gonna say, do you want to talk about Rob at all, or do you want to save that for tomorrow?
Oh yeah, no, we should very quickly. So I think the main takeaway is, aside from it just being clearly very sad and unfortunate, is that it's the opposite knee to what he's had like long-standing issues with. So now he's doubly screwed when it comes to
do you know
knee
what it
issues.
is? Have you, outside of, I've just seen that he needs surgery, and what they showed on the broadcast. That's all I've seen.
Not specifically. DJ Januel, it's 8 p.m. Eastern US time. So that's roughly
11 a.m.
equates to midday, I think.
It's true. The clock's moved again.
They've had daylight
12 p.m.
savings. So that's like the 3rd time we've had a time shift in recent weeks. But yeah, midday Sydney time. So with Robert Williams, I think from what I read, I don't know the specific details, but he banged knees, and then there was ensuing bone, cartilage, and ligament damage as a result, and now he needs to have season-ending surgery to fix that.
Season-ending surgery.
Season-ending, yeah. So I don't think he's fully committed to that. It sounded like from what Woj was saying, he's weighing up the options, because I saw some follow-up tweets being like, I think he should get the surgery. He should focus on
long
longevity.
term.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing is, it's such a bummer, dude.
It's devastating.
Like, man, it's hard to really see him fulfilling the potential that we have all seen for him. Like, calling him the chosen one, right? Like, the potential that this guy had with the athleticism and the IQ and just the feel for the game, the genuine, like, I feel like I'm doing his eulogy. But like, another season-ending surgery, it's like, I think he'll always be able to play. Even he was already limited last year. Like, he was never the same hyper athlete that he was in his early days. Oh man, that video of him and Marcus hugging when Portland and Memphis played was just the definition of I'm about to say homeless, wholesome. It's just hard to see him really reaching that potential at this point. It's just always been something. But, we'll always have January to March 2022 where...
Yep. That's our Paris.
Yeah. Which is probably... That's the story, right? We can't even say a full year with Rob. Like, that was the window. That Celtics January to March team, if the playoffs started in February instead of April, they'd probably win the title. Like, if the playoffs had started 2 months earlier and Rob had been healthy across those 2 months, I believe that they win the title because they were that good defensively and he was that impactful.
They were destroying teams.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. It wouldn't have mattered.
It's really disappointing. I'm sure, for Rob more than anybody else, of course.
Yeah.
But the narrative all off season was like, this is Time Lord's first off season where he can focus on his rehab and he's training and he's ramping up. He's not having to come back from an injury in the first few months of the season. And then less than 2 weeks in, bam, out for the season. Devastating.
His body just isn't built for it. Like, he wasn't even playing a lot of minutes with Portland. It's just clearly his body is not built. There's just like this. It's so weird because his body's clearly built for the NBA, but on the other hand, it's clearly not.
Yeah.
He has the 7'6" wingspan. He has the ability to see plays happen ahead of most other big men, but The knees.
Maybe he's built for the NBL where they play once a week or whatever it is. That actually could be a more favorable
That's
schedule.
great. Oh my God. I'd be so happy. Please come play for the Jack
Well,
Jumpers.
and the Jack Jumpers, right? Like still got some hops. They could formulate a whole PR campaign around him. Anyway, now we're getting on another plane.
Really
here.
late night.
Yeah, so Dan Greenberg, friend of the show, had this tweet just to wrap up on something here. You can add assistant coaches, you can change the point guard, you can add an elite offensive third option. None of that truly matters. At the end of the day, it remains true that ultimately things come down to the play/late game decision making of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which is so painfully true and also awesome.
Dude.
They just
good.
didn't get it right tonight. They just did not get it right.
Exactly. I think that's a good thing. That is where the answer lies. Because I have to believe, to put my Ben hat here, I have to believe that they, and specifically Tatum, will figure it out.
Yeah, and like we said at the top there, low-key, it's a good thing for them to go,
Maybe it is.
like we haven't just been handed everything we need for all of the bad juju to go away. Like, we still actually need to enact that ourselves. So I think it's healthy to learn that while still being 5-1 and top of your conference. So we'll leave it there. Podcast tomorrow, 12 p.m. Aussie time, East Coast, 8 p.m. US East. Spoonie's going to be on the show. It's going to be the first podcast that the three of us have been on together for a while, I think, because I think, I had my surgery. Jake, you had your wedding and then your honeymoon, and then Spoonie's had some time off. So it's going to be great to get the three of us back on the show together. Shout out to everyone on the chat, like hanging out with you guys, reading your comments while we do this. Like I said, just the funnest imaginable part of doing all of this. So thanks, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Jake, any parting thoughts?
No, I just realized, why are there no NBA games tomorrow?
Election day in the States.
Okay. Wow. All right. There you go.
Yeah.
For a country.
Yeah, no distractions. Everyone get out there and vote. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, get out there.
I am the kind of dickhead who would use any excuse like the NBA being on to not vote. So I'm glad that they have no games so that they get people out there. So
it's annoying for us, I guess. Yeah, that's right.
Well, big wide time slot for us to podcast.
Yeah, true. So. There's nothing. There's no football. There's no NBA. Come watch First Off Floor tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. Can't wait. We'll see you folks then. Have a good one. Peace.